closely with all of our colleagues in this region, so we could not but support that project. Are we happy that Melling has not been funded? We are absolutely not, and I will, as Mayor, hold the government to account.
I have to add a fact in there because there's a bit of a mistruth. The scope of Let's Get Wellington Moving was set even before Justin Lester became the Mayor of Wellington. These things don't just happen overnight, this work. So that started 3 to 4 years ago, and that was when the scope of it went to the Nauranga Gorge. So we didn't have the strong advocacy needed to include the Hutt Valley transportation issues in that.
Sweet. It's just that this next question is in a similar vein to that. It goes to Councillor Barry. Given the recent fiasco around the second Mount Vic tunnel, in which party-backed councillors went against the best interests of the Wellington people to please the parties that backed them, what assurance can you give the people of Lower Hutt, if elected, that you will put their interests first and not the party's backing?
Fair question. The reason I'm standing as a Labour candidate for the mayoralty is because I want to be upfront and honest about my values. I want to be transparent with people. If I want to run a transparent and accountable council, then I need to run in a transparent way. I come from a working class family. My mum and dad worked extremely hard to provide for my family. We didn't have a lot growing up, but they always looked after us and we had a loving family. Again, my values are Labour values and I want to be upfront and honest about that. I know my opponent is going to try and make a bit of a thing about that in regards to it being a scary takeover or something like that, but that's not the case at all. I think I just want people, when they go to the voting box, to know where my values lie. And I suggest when you look at a ballot paper and everyone says independent, do you truly think they all are independent and don't have political views? No, they don't. They do. They just choose not to show them.
Next question.
So do I get a chance to respond to that very quickly? I think, your question comes up at the appropriate time. You only have to look at that situation. That was a fiasco, and it's quite clear that party politics entered into that, because Let's Get Wellington moving, to not have the two main tunnels, which are the two choke points coming into Wellington, that's the Guthrie Street tunnel and the Mount Vic tunnel, makes a mockery of that project. All of the mayors will continue to work to ensure that that project is done. The tunnels have to be there. You cannot do light rail or trackless trams without having tunnels to be able to take those people through the city. So we'll continue to work with that, and as an independent, truly independent, I can hold whatever government is in office to account, whether it be Labour, whether it be National in 3 years, I can hold them to account.
Right, so next question. Nainai Pool is the centrepiece of the Lower Hutt community, and more specifically the Nainai community. Mr. Mayor, under the current timeline you have provided, the final decision will be made in March 2020. Given that many local businesses, cafes, bakeries, etc. rely on Nainai Pool for stability, do you think that your plan is good enough?
Yes, it is. And I want to just remind us why the council closed that pool. We had an engineer come in and tell us that in his professional opinion there was real risk to people's lives, and the chief executive made the decision this pool has to stop and close immediately. We support that decision. And what we have done is we have worked closely with the acknowledging certainly that the local businesses have had a bad time since that, but again it comes down to public safety. We were not allowing anybody to lose their lives to keep a pool open when we've got 7 other pools around the city. But we've encouraged and got the Chamber of Commerce, the Business Chamber of Commerce, to work with those residents and businesses. We're also now having plenty of communication and engagement, and at our very last meeting of council, everybody came along and said, get the consultation right. They know it's going to take a few months because we're talking about a $65 million project potentially. We want to make sure we get that right first time, and it's first and foremost about engaging with our community. We're making provision for people to swim in school holidays up at the other pools. We're working with the local school to open their pool for under 11-year-olds so they can swim there. It is about getting this project right for the future, for your generation and your children's generation.
Councillor Barry, your response.
Yeah, I think we've moved far too slow on Nine Pool. I think that there is currently no money in the budget, so how council works is every year around June we sign off a budget, and what happened is the Mayor and a few others celebrated, hey look, we're within our debt limits, we've got this low rates increase, fantastic, but hey, we actually haven't put any money aside for this impending cost around Nine Pool. And I think that's really, really disappointing. Moving forward, absolutely we need to work with the community, but we can do that with pace if we want to, because we need to put the resourcing into it. The closure of Nine Pool has had a massive impact on that local community. They are devastated, and I think that this, alongside the processes that we've taken with the community hall and a proposed hub, really feels like a slap in the face of that community. They are devastated. You have local businesses who are having to shut up shop because of the current situation. So for me, Nine Pool is an absolute priority. I much prefer to fund pools over hotels, I can tell you that right now, and that's the sort of mayor that I would be, because these are the types of facilities that are important for our communities. They're important for allowing young people to learn how to swim. They're important for allowing seniors to make sure they have physical activity and social interaction as well. So it's an absolute priority for me.
Can I just correct two factually incorrect issues there? Campbell said that there's been no money put aside in the budget. We brought $9 million forward so that we can start getting on with the consultation, with the plans, so there's money in there. His reference to putting large amounts in the budget, he knows full well that the auditors won't allow money to go in once you've been out and consulted and asked people for their comments on a plan, to then suddenly, after that's all been done, saying we're putting another 40 million. There are processes that have to be followed. We have followed those processes. There is money in the budget, and we're moving forward.
Rejuvenating High Street is a project that is square in the public's mind. What is your plan to rejuvenate High Street?
Well, thank you. And this has been a project that started some time ago, because as we know, retail has very much changed. With the advent of the Queensgate, a lot of the old retail sector has struggled. What we said was to rejuvenate not only High Street, we needed to rejuvenate the central city. So we now have a brand new event centre that's going to bring in over $100 million into the local economy over the next 20 years. It's creating 100 new jobs. We've got the town centre, we've got the Dow Square, the lawns and the Riverford Gardens are all part of the rejuvenation. We are seeing businesses starting to come back into High Street. We've got Buzz Cafe. There's a new cafe going in across the road. Avanti Bikes have now moved in. It's starting to move forward and start to rejuvenate, but it's not going to be just retail anymore. We are currently looking at plans, and it's called Plan Change 43 is one of them, and other district plan changes to allow more apartments. We're looking at more housing, and the River Link project will have new housing along the river, which people will be able to buy. That's all about rejuvenating. It is not going to happen overnight, but we are already seeing that starting to take place.
Yeah, I think you just have to, I acknowledge that the High Street issue, ever since Queensgate came in, which is, it's sort of before our time, to be honest, so we probably don't really know what it was like back then. But I think that the issue is that there's a whole heap of money being spent to try and take High Street back to the 1980s. That's never going to happen. We have Queensgate, it's a reality. The way we move forward is getting more people, more apartments in our CBD. If you get people living there, working there, spending their money there, you will have the flow-on effects. One thing I don't support, and this is one thing I am critical of the current mayor on, is the way that we go about this. There's been $4.5 million in subsidies for a hotel to go into High Street. It's currently 4 years behind its date that it was meant to be completed. And that same businessman gets a $700,000 underwrite of his losses at the event centre. This is the sort of corporate welfare that council shouldn't be engaging in. Like I say, this is the sort of money that should be going to facilities like Nainai Pool that are there for all of our community. In regards to High Street and South, like I said, in regards to apartments, I think we need to think about how we incorporate the mall more into our town centre as well. I think what's happened is we've spent a heck of a lot of money down near the council buildings and the Ridderford Gardens, $9.5 million on the Ridderford Gardens. I don't know how many of you go down there and hang out. I don't know many people that do, to be honest. And it's an incredible amount of money. I suppose Ray and the rest of the council officers go there for their lunch breaks because it's right time.
Don't you see me down there on my skateboard?
But I think that we need to get our priorities right. This isn't, for us, this isn't about monument building, this isn't about those nice areas to have, it's about people, and I think we can do a whole heap more.
Alright, so both of the candidates have expressed encouragement for more youth voices and local issues. Councillor, what more can be done so that a range of youth voices are heard? Alright, so what more can be done so that a range of youth voices are heard?
So this is certainly an issue which is close to my heart. As I mentioned before, I was 19 when I first got elected to the Wainuiomata Community Board. I've been a strong advocate for young people getting involved in local government because local government and council issues actually have a really big impact on our community's everyday lives. I think we can be encouraging more young people to stand. That's something which I've been a strong advocate for. For example, in Wainuiomata, I was elected there as a 22-year-old. My second term, I encouraged another young man, Josh Briggs, who was 25 at the time, or 26, I think, to stand. And I think that's one way that we can obviously make sure that there is a youth perspective around the council, is making sure that they are actually at the decision-making table. It's all well and good having the youth council and they do a fantastic job, but if you're not actually at the table making decisions, then it's much harder to have that influence. So I think we can do a heck of a lot more. I think there's a groundswell across the country on this. I think Chloe Swarbrick certainly led the charge, and we have seen a number of people put their name forward already in the Hutt, which I think is fantastic.
Mr. Mayor, your response.
Thank you. Well, look, I've got a proud history of supporting our young people. Back in 1998, I was the chairman of the community services that put our very first youth council. It was called YI back then, Youth Infusion, infusing our youth into the city. It was my committee that passed the resolutions to be one of the first councils. I'm not going to say the first because there might be another council, but we were one, if not the first, that allowed young people to have a voice around our council table. Legally we weren't able to, but during my mayoralty I have encouraged young people. In fact, back in 2013, was it 2013? I had a young chap on my team by the name of Councillor Barry and encouraged him to stand. You might know him. So look, it is about having young people. I'm proud of this city because we have such a diversity, and I've just seen some of the updates this afternoon. There's a lot more young people coming through, there's a lot more young women coming through, which is great, and women in general, and a lot more diversity, our ethnic diversity, because this is a fantastic city. Our council has to reflect that it is a truly diverse city and a diverse council. So I'm looking forward to the election. I think it is going to show a lot more young people coming through. And, you know, people say about young people, they are our leaders of the future. You are all leaders in this school. You lead this school and you are leaders out in the community and you have that respect. So I look forward to it. I think the future looks very bright for our young people.
So, next question. Mental health is a major problem in New Zealand with our suicide rates, with our national suicide rates skyrocketing. The Hutt Valley DHB statistics show that Lower Hutt is at the national average for suicide rates. Mr. Mayor, what can be done at a local level to stop these horrific statistics?
Thank you, and that is one of the most serious issues. While I know that in just recent times suicide rates, older men have become very much into the mix, for youth it is still very much an issue. I have supported many of the initiatives, community-led initiatives, that we've had in the city. We've had Mike King come down. I've helped Mike King come down. We've had Rob Mokura, another great young New Zealander that's come down and talked about these sorts of issues. I meet with the DHB regularly. There is a forum called the Governance Group, which has the DHB. They give us updates on regional public health. This is very much a community thing. The good thing about it is, when I was your age, you never talked about mental health issues. You never talked about how you were feeling. The great thing is there has been a wave of change, and that's great for the community. You should be able to reach out to your friends. You should be able to talk to your teachers if there are issues, and I would encourage you to do so. I'm also part of the White Ribbon. I'm a White Ribbon ambassador. Because you see suicide through family violence. These are the sorts of things we have to get on top of. Mayor Wayne Guppy and myself are the patrons of the Family Violence Network, trying to get less violence in this community, because sadly that's still very much a factor. And each and every one of you can play a role in that, because there should be no bullying in schools. You should all be free to be safe and feel safe. So this is where I call a call of action to you all, young people. Is together we're going to make that difference. That's the big issue.
Councillor, your response.
Yeah, I would have to agree with everything that he has said on this one, and I think that the answer is in this room, it's in our communities, it's everyone being able to be that ear when someone needs to talk to you. So if you, or even for example, someone's walking down the street, they're not looking too happy, say hello to them. Say, hey, how you doing? That simple action that you might take may mean the world of difference for that person. So I think it's just having that empathy and being that awareness that we're often, all of us, I'm sure myself and Ray included, go through tough times. So having the support and supportive people around you is key. So be one of those supportive people, because you never know, one day you may need that support as well. I would also say, just like particularly for young people, I think that the issue around social media and technology, like that is something which we really need to get our head around. So I think that I'm guilty of it, spend far too much time on Facebook when I should be talking to my wife and giving her interaction. So I think we also need to make sure that we have those social and human interactions, not just these online ones as well. I think it's a really important message that I sort of like to share as well.
This is just the last question, very open. We'll bring it first to Councillor Barry. Why should you be the next mayor?
So I'm standing for the mayoralty, or I think that I should be the next mayor of Lower Hutt. There's one big quality which I think I have, and it's the fact that I listen. I listen to our people, I listen to our communities about what they see as the issues facing them. I think that for me, this election is about priorities. What are the council's current priorities and where should they be? I think we can do a heck of a lot more on the transportation issues around congestion on our roads, as we've talked about. I think we can do more around housing, but also the infrastructure to support that housing. Because it's all well and good saying we want to bring more people here, but if we're not investing in the basics to help make that happen, then we're setting ourselves up to fail in the long term. But also the environment, as we've talked about. I think that's incredibly important. We don't exist if we don't look after the planet, and I think that for me as a younger person, this absolutely will be at the top of the agenda. This is about my kids, this is about your kids when you have them eventually one day, and well, I don't know, you may already have kids, I don't know, I doubt it, no? Anyone? No? Okay, I hope not. No, that's okay. But so this is about our future and future generations. So that's why I'm standing to be mayor. This is not because I think Ray is a bad man or anything like that. I just disagree with where the council has put its priorities and spent a lot of its money. There's been some good things, and I think we can, with a change of direction, capitalise on those and tackle the big challenges we have to come.
Well, thank you and kia ora. It's been my pleasure to be the mayor of this city for 9 years. Why did I want to be mayor? Because I believe in people, I believe in community, and that has been my hallmark of my mayoralty. It is about putting people first. It is about listening, as Campbell has rightly said. The major facilities that we now have is because we've listened to our community. Your homework for tonight, guys, I know you probably think, I don't want homework. Go home and ask Mum and Dad what the city was like 9 years ago. I think they'll tell you that it was very tired, it was very run down. The infrastructure was not in good shape. We have had the biggest investment in our infrastructure, in our facilities, the Walter Nash, the new Fraser Park Sportsville, these sorts of programs. Our programs from our Tamariki. We now have a Healthy Families program. We've got our Youth Inspire program to get people into jobs, the Mayor's Task Force for Jobs. So we are focused on our young people. I agree with Campbell, it is certainly about the environment going forward. This city has some real challenges. I know that Campbell says, that I can't relate to young people, I'm sorry, but that's not the case. Your age means nothing in that sense, and that's something that Campbell and I do agree on. It is about the people that matter most. And having that dialogue with young people has been part of my mayoralty from day one, and if lucky enough to be re-elected for a further term, young people will always be welcome in my office to talk about issues. I was the president of my school council back in the day, and obviously that's where the public service came from, and it was a great school council. So I hope that those of you that can vote will support me for a further 3 years, and also that you can convince Mum and Dad to vote for me as well. Thank you.
Just on behalf of everyone, first off, I just want to say thank you both for coming and sharing your wishes. Hopefully it gives some light to what you both are about.
Thank you, Garrison. And I just thank you all for being such an attentive crowd. Campbell and I have got a number of other events we're going to have over the next few months, and I'm sure that the crowds won't be as good-willed and valued as you all. So, kia ora, thank you very much.
Just to remind everybody, there'll be a sausage sizzle now that being done by the main block, $2 for a sausage. And
Tamati.